the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, August 23rd in the year 2021. And no matter if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast or if you're watching us on YouTube or WKYC.com, I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes a part of your day. On today's episode, we will hit a lot of big major news that happened over the weekend. Also, we're going to continue our Buckeye road trip around the NFL. Today, we're staying in Las Vegas and talking about the Raiders linebacker, Darren Lee. We begin today's show talking about what is the biggest news of the weekend. Ryan Day names a starting quarterback. Justin Fields is gone. He's in the NFL, took a brutal hit against the Bears over the weekend, but like I mentioned, the Bills are in the NFL. Hope I said Bills and not Bears, but the hit came by the way of a Bills linebacker. Justin Fields plays for the Bears. He's in the NFL. Got drafted number 11th overall pick in last year's NFL draft. So the guy that started the last 2 years is not at Ohio State anymore. Ryan Day had a big task. Not only one guy was in the running, possibly from last year that was on the team. There were two guys on the team last year that were in the running to compete for this year's starting quarterback. Also, you have true freshman quarterback Kyle McCord, who's also in that running as well, a three-headed race. Only one guy can be the starter. Ryan Day has a tough task. He has named C.J. Stroud QB1 for your Ohio State Buckeyes. To you, it might not be a surprise. To you, it might be a surprise. To you, may be saying, well, Jay, what does this mean for the future? What does this mean for Game 3, Game 4, Game 5 for next year and the year after that? That's to be determined. We'll talk about next year down the road. We'll talk about Game 3, 4, and 5 once those weeks come into the season. But for right now, Ryan Day made a statement in the middle of fall camp. He would officially announce a starting quarterback. 2 weeks. He gave himself a 2-week window. He kind of hinted at who the starting QB would be at the end of week 2, but did not make an official announcement until the end of week number 3. Now, at the same time, him hinting at it, myself stating in the summer, and I believe it was in July, we talked about the QB competition, did all week long, talked about that very thing. We talked about what each person brought to the table, and then also explained why I thought C.J. Stroud would be QB1. Dave Biddle from 24/7 Sports, the editor of Bucknuts.com. I know Bucknuts. Buckeye Scoop had it as well. I mean, all these insiders had their own source that they talked to, and all of these sources relayed the same information. Ohio State and Ryan Day are leaning towards Mr. C.J. Stroud to be QB1. Here's what Ryan Day said about C.J. Stroud in the press conference. Now, I'm going to add this little detail in here very, very quickly. The next time the media was expected to hear from Ryan Day via press conference was tomorrow. But on Friday, they got word there will be a press conference on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. and that Ryan Day had an announcement he was going to make. Now, I'm used to press conferences. A lot of times things happen late, but this one started right on time, and the announcement shortly came after it started. Ryan Day made his announcement, and, of course, the questions followed after that. Here's what Ryan Day had to say about Mr. C.J. Stroud being QB1. Quote, "We had a big scrimmage yesterday. We kind of called it our pre-season game. The whole goal was who's game ready, who's ready to go play in this game. And I thought we had a bunch of guys who are game ready. Not everybody, but I think this was kind of that line of demarcation of where everybody's at. CJ graded out a champion and played really well in that game, and I think he solidified that spot," end quote. I wonder now, this is an article written over the weekend. I wonder if he was really truly solidified prior to that, or if he kind of had his initial, like his arm was leaning towards that. I mean, we've seen all fall camp long, and I documented it here on this here podcast. CJ Stroud has been the leader in every single drill that has been going on the season. CJ Stroud has been the front runner in every single position drill. Now, we all know depth charts. Whoever is number one in the depth chart generally is going to go number one, followed by 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Running backs, we documented and talked about Mayan Williams, number one in the line, and then Master Teague. Everyone's talking about and hyping up Travion Henderson. I'm kind of pumped the brakes on that. We'll talk more about that throughout the week, about pumping the brakes on certain newcomers on this team, about production throughout the season, especially early on in the season. We got to have a little reality check here on this here podcast. But CJ Stroud as QB1, I am excited for what he brings to the table. I am excited about the future for the Ohio State Buckeyes. CJ Stroud is an individual with his intangibles. He's able to manage a game in a phenomenal way. He is able to control and move the ball. He's able to score in the red zone. He's able to capitalize off of mistakes and always put his team in the best spot to be successful. Now, these are things we're going off of in practice in the spring game. We have not seen any of this throughout the season. So when the lights come on, when he's playing against a team that has a different color than he has seen during practice, will he fold up? Will he get cold? Will he get a little nervous? Will he get a little apprehensive? Will he act like a different gentleman than he act like during camp? That is to be determined. When you have not played or started any college football games, everything now is, hey, we think you'll do this. We need proof of you doing it when the lights come on. We think and believe you will do X, Y, and Z. But nobody, not Ryan Day, not myself, not you, can concretely say what CJ Stroud will do in the game because we have not seen him perform in the game just as a starting quarterback at The Ohio State University. Week 1, September 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the time of the kickoff for the first game against the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who are wearing black jerseys, might I add. We will find out. The chapter will begin as CJ Stroud will be QB1 for the Ohio State Buckeyes. What can we expect? What will we see? We can all speculate about how he'll play, but we won't know how he'll play until he starts performing September 2nd in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let's step away very quickly. When we come back, we will continue looking at big news from the weekend because, guys, a lot of stuff came out, and I'm sure you'll love what we hear. But first, check this out. As we continue this episode here of Locked On Buckeyes, if this is your first time checking out Locked On Buckeyes, I want to say welcome. Or if it's your first time in a long time, I want to say welcome back. Locked On Buckeyes drops a fresh new episode for you every Monday through Friday. Make sure you subscribe on the Odyssey app or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Stitcher or wherever you get your fine podcast. Also subscribe on the YouTube page, Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube. Hit that search engine, type in Locked On Buckeyes. It will take you to the page. Hit that subscribe button there. Also, if you're a WKYC.com viewer of the show, go ahead, continue there, but still view the YouTube page, subscribe there as well. It's greatly appreciated. Locked On Buckeyes drops a fresh new episode for you every Monday through Friday. Oh, big guest coming up tomorrow. Big guest. That's all I can say for now. Big news from the weekend. Yes, CJ Stroud is the quarterback, is QB1 at The Ohio State University. However, there's more news that came out from the weekend. Ohio State announced that there will be 6 captains for this year's team. Some of them may be self-explanatory. We're going to speculate about something that will be happening here very, very soon. But we can kind of expect something that's going to be speculated will come from one of these 6 individuals. The captains, Chris Olave, Thayer Munford, Haskell Garrett, Zach Harrison, Cameron Babb, and Tarajda Mitchell. Tarajda. I'll get the proper pronunciation of his name here soon. You guys know how much I love to get pronunciations correct, but that one's always tripped me up. But Those are your 6 captains. Chris Olave came back, and he has stunned a lot of people when he decided to come back to the Ohio State University and play the football. I always viewed it as a way for him to do a few things. One, make himself a better pro prospect. Potentially, he could be a first-round draft pick next season. I do not believe he would have been a first-round draft pick next year. Now, first round, second round, what's the difference? Money. That's basically money. But I don't think I think second round, third round draft pick, no matter who it is, if you could draft it into the NFL, it's great. You always want to get drafted as high as you can. Chris Olave, one of the 6 captains at the Ohio State University, also think he came back to make himself a little bit stronger, and he knew that whoever was QB1 at Ohio State, either Jack Miller or CJ Stroud, will be a phenomenal guy to help him make him a better pro prospect. In Olave, he is one of these 6 captains. Thayer Munford, possibility of moving from left tackle to left guard, making him a better pro prospect. And there's been a great transformation from Thayer Munford from entering the Ohio State football program into where he is present day. Happy he is one of the 6 captains. Haskell Garrett. Everybody, and I mean everybody, even Ryan Roberts, NFL draft analyst, who will be on the show later in the week. Ryan Roberts even talked about how Haskell Garrett, before last season, got shot in the face. The bullet went through both cheeks, and it was phenomenal how he's able to play, how he played last year, knowing that what happened last year prior to the season. Haskell Garrett is one of these 6 captains as well. Cameron Babb. Imagine you going into a season knowing you can have a phenomenal play. You could be an individual that is looked at as a breakout star for the team, and you're hurt. He has suffered 3 season injuries dating back to high school, and he is recovering from an injury right now. But it's phenomenal to see your peers and your coaches. They look and view you in a certain way that has lifted you up and to be a phenomenal piece, a phenomenal part of this team, and they still view you as a leader for this team. Cameron Babb, teammate of numerous Buckeyes, I'm not sure where that came from, and he is a captain of this team. Of course he's a teammate. He's on the team. He's a teammate of numerous players, over 100 of them. Cameron Babb, let's just keep going. Cameron Babb is a captain of the Buckeyes. Also, Taraj Mitchell, the most experienced linebacker in the room. And I think one of the big things for him is not just him being the most experienced LB in the room, but he is becoming more of a vocal leader. And in a room that's very inexperienced, in a room that is looking for some guidance, you need one player on the team to speak up, to be vocal, and to be that leader that is needed by somebody at the LB position. That gentleman, love to see it, Mr. Mitchell. He is one of these 6 captains. Now, what has not been announced is who will be the recipient of the Block O jersey, something that was handed out last year to Jonathan Cooper. Goes to an individual that has a characteristics in their life, and that is a great model and a great person. You can look at it and say, this is what Ohio State Buckeye football and Ohio State athletics represent. Now, last year was a lineman. It was Jonathan Cooper, and Cooper was able to wear that number on the field. Thayer Munford, I do not believe, was able to wear that number on the field. Would it go to Thayer Munford? Possibly. Possibly. Now, I think my suggestions, or who I think it'll be, will be one of 4 people: Munford, Garrett, Olave, or Harrison. 3 of the 4 can wear said number, only 1 cannot, but I think those will be one of the 4, one of the people that win it. It's to be determined who gets that honor this season. 3 more things very quickly. Well, one thing with 3 players, I got it. 3 players lost their black stripes this year. We're not going to go in order of it happening, but Jordan Hancock, number 13 for the Ohio State Buckeyes, 6'1", 185-pound cornerback from Sawanee, Georgia, North Gwinnett High School. He was a 4-star recruit, number 5 player recruit in the state of Georgia, number 4 cornerback, number 47 ranked recruit in the nation, according to 247 Sports. Next up is Jensen Dunn. He is number 24. He's a safety, 6'1", 190 pounds, from Bowling Green, Kentucky, South Warren High School. Mr. Jensen Dunn, he enrolled in December. Mr. Hancock was a summer enrollee, which is makes it more of a big deal. Why about him losing his black stripe when he did. Jensen Dunn, a 4-star recruit, number 2 recruit in the state of Kentucky, number 7 ranked safety in that class as well. Last but not least, Mr. Donovan Jackson, who is a preseason All-American preseason freshman All-American from 24/7 Sports. He is number 74. He has been impressive all fall camp long. He enrolled in the summer. 6'4", 300-pound offensive lineman from Bel Air, Texas. Not Bel Air like Bel Air, California, out there in that area. Blaire. Bel Air, Texas, from Episcopal High School. He is a freshman offensive lineman, former 5-star recruit, number 2 recruit in the state of Texas, number 1 interior offensive lineman in that recruiting class, and then also number 7th ranked player in the class of 2021, according to 24/7 Sports. 6 captains listed. Jay speculated about who would be the recipient of the Block O jersey, and 3 young men lost their black stripes. A lot going on at Ohio State, a lot looking forward to in the future, and a lot to love about this year's football team. One more segment we'll keep rolling on. When we come back, we will highlight and discuss and talk about an NFL player who used to be at the Ohio State University. Continuing our Buckeye road trip around the NFL, your boy Q, the host of Locked On Raiders, will be with us one more time to talk about Mr. Darren Lee and if he'll make the Raiders roster. But first, check this out. And joining us once again here on Locked On Buckeyes, it is your boy Q, the host of Locked On Raiders. Q, how you doing?
Man, I'm good. I'm a resident now on your show, man. You know what I mean? Like I live rent-free on Locked On Buckeyes, man. I appreciate that.
Hey, rent-free. I'm a solo guy. You're a solo guy. If we need to make a co-hosting type of deal once a week or something, talk to Ross. I'm sure he could probably make something happen.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Ross got all the answers, man. You know he does. So, yeah, we could definitely collaborate, man. It's always good to catch up with you, Jay.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yes, it is. We have hit Jonathan Hankins, the big man that people just happen to not talk very much about. Right. We've hit Damon Arnett, and we both kind of said our piece about that situation. One more player, Buckeye road trip around the NFL. Last player to hit in Vegas, it is Darren Lee. Now, this is very interesting to me because Darren Lee is a guy he's on his 4th team right now. He spent a few years in New York, the Jets, 1 year in KC, 1 year in Buffalo, and now he is in Vegas. Very young guy, trying to get his feet wet and trying to find a way to solidify his name and his place on a roster like he did in New York, but not having a short stint like he did in New York. Darren Lee got signed this offseason. Q, what were you thinking when that happened?
I was wondering what the Raiders were thinking, to be 100% honest. I didn't know what that move was for, because Darren Lee, my opinion of him so far throughout his NFL career hasn't been that high. I haven't really had that glowing remarks about him. I didn't really understand. I actually thought coming out of school that he was a little overrated because that Ohio State defense was so good that there was playmakers everywhere. Yeah. And I thought that he was just good because he was there. You know what I mean? And that happens sometimes. Sometimes when you're on a really talented team like that Ohio State defense that he was a part of, I mean, you're good by default. You know what I mean? You're good because everyone around you is good. So I never was really high on Darren Lee, that I thought he was a great player. But I'll say this, because I know it sounds like I just kind of poo-pooed on him, but I didn't. I think that he's a good quality depth piece. And the Raiders and their linebacking core has not ever been something that you just write home about. It's like, man, they got the best linebackers out there. They always have questions with the linebackers. Can Corey Littleton play the role he was expected to play when they signed him as a free agent? Can Nick Witkowski be that guy? Nicholas Morrow, he's a former D3 guy, is now, entrenched as a starter right there. I mean, that's interesting in itself. But after that, what happens? After, if a guy goes down, what happens? Who's your next line of defense? That's where Darren Lee is going to come in. And that's why over the past few weeks, I've learned that was really a great signing because he's a veteran. He's been around. He's played in multiple defenses. He's kind of got the pedigree and the know-how to go out there and execute. He's not going to be a starter, but he could be a guy that can come in a pinch. Hey, your guy just went down. Who can you bring up? Okay, boom, throw Lee in there. And he could go in there, and you're not going to miss a beat. It's not going to be, oh, my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. I mean, he's going to be a guy that can fill the void. So, no, he's not a superstar. No, he's not a guy that's just going to, get you 115 or 120 tackles a season, but he's a guy that could play, and I think he knows his role, and I think he does have a place with the Raiders team. Now, with that being said, there's 90 men on the roster right now. They've got to get it down to 53. So he's got to earn that spot on the roster, but I do believe there's one for him there.
What is the importance of having people like Lee that can be that depth piece that you talk about?
Well, he can be there to kind of explain to the younger guys what he's seen. He's almost, I don't want to say a coach on the, on the sideline, but he could also diagnose some plays from the side. And then when a Nicholas Morrow comes over to the sideline, he can say, hey, this is what they're doing. This is the tendencies that I'm seeing. This is what they're, picking up, and kind of just get in his ear a little bit and get into a Corey Littleton's ear. And hey, this is what we need to do on this play. Take this approach like that. I mean, just help the guys out, because this is a relatively young defense that the Raiders have. So anybody who's been in the league for a few years and has a little bit of a burn under their belt, a guy that's played in some games and kind of knows what he's doing. He's gonna have a role in a spot where he can help out in a major way. And then on top of that, if the guys aren't performing like they need to be, Richard Smith, the linebacker coach, could throw Darren Lee in there and say, hey, you know what, Corey, you got to go sit down. Darren, I need you in, and he can fill that void, and you don't feel like, oh man, here it goes. There's a huge hole in the defense.
Is his best fit with the Raiders defense inside backer or outside backer?
I think that inside is probably better for him. I think just to kind of be that man in the middle, and the Raiders traditionally run that 4-3 scheme. But I know he has enough speed to get it done as well to be kind of that outside backer. The thing I like about this defense this year, I believe you're going to see many different roles. You're going to see multiple formations thrown at him. But I would think that he would be a guy that would come in and play that middle role and kind of be that fill in for that middle role, especially if it's needed.
We mentioned special teams with Damon Arnett the last player we hit on. This is kind of like the wheelhouse in the area that Lee can simply do what's needed to make a roster spot.
Yeah, I agree. And, on top of that, if he does hit the field by special teams, he can show that want to and that ability of, hey, this guy's been in the league for some years, but yet he's out here, trying to get down the field on special teams and try to make a big time tackle, or he's throwing a big time block, or, anything like that. You could have guys like that. Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coach, man, he loves guys, and he always throws guys out there. He throws starters out there sometimes on special teams because he wants those guys to have that want to. They call that the first defensive play of the possession, basically. And so, Darren Lee could definitely show that he wants to be on the team and carve out a niche for himself if he does excel on special teams. And I think he has that in him.
Last question for you, Q. Take as much time as you want with this one. Does Darren Lee make the roster?
Man, that's a good question. I've been thinking about that, and my colleagues that are there with us, watching training camp, we've asked that question multiple times, just wondering, is he going to make the squad? Because again, he has a name. He's been around the league a little bit. 1 year here, 1 year there, whatever. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say he makes his team. I'm going to say he makes the team, and I think it's going to be what we just talked about. I think special teams is going to help him get on the roster, and then I think his veteran leadership and knowledge is going to also help him. Now he's got to go out there and really bust it. I think you're going to see a lot of him during the preseason also, which a lot of times a veteran like him doesn't get a lot of preseason burn. But I think because of his roster spot right now, his standings, where you just don't know if he's going to make the roster, I think you'll see him get a lot of burn in preseason, and that might solidify his spot.
One of the things I do not do, try my best not to do, is to hold people's statements like what you just made, saying you think he makes it over their head and then come back at you to say, Q, you're crazy. I will not do that. I hope we're both on the same page here. I would love for him too. And I know you got to get cut. Somebody's got to get cut. I hate seeing players get cut, but it has to happen. I just hope for Darren Lee. I hope it happens for him, and I hope he is somewhat of a piece for the Raiders this year, not a practice squad or not the last guy on the roster, but some type of special teams aspect or somehow getting on the field at some point throughout the season. Q, this has been fun, man. Last but not least, if you could, let everyone know once again where they can catch you on Twitter and catch your show as well. Talk about Locked On NFL, because I think you're doing that one.
Oh, yeah.
I think you mentioned that too as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Locked On Raiders podcast every single day. I put that out 12:15 in the morning. Fridays, myself and Christopher Carter from Locked On Steelers, we get together. We do Locked On NFL. I also do Locked On Bets. You know, I do a little gambling show with Lee Sterling for Paramount Sports. So, yeah, I think I'm doing a little bit of everything. Sometimes I don't know what day it is just because, well, I'm always doing something, a radio show or I'm doing a podcast or something. So, yeah, man, you can find all my work. Always you can find my work at your boy Q254 on Twitter. That's the easiest way to keep up with me and catch up with me. I think it's actually easier to get a hold of me by way of Twitter than it is to send me a text message. So there you go. Twitter is my way. At your boy Q254.
Everybody loves Twitter. Q's on there. I'm on there. Just happy that the Locked On family keeps getting stronger. So many phenomenal hosts like yourself, Q. And I'm glad you could be on here 3 separate times talking about 3 former Buckeyes and their expectations for this upcoming season. Q, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my man. Anytime you need me, you reach out, man. I do appreciate you. It's always fun catching up with you.